We'll find out after the morning program.
That's really an inconvenience, to say the least.
Yeah, somehow or other they did something.
Who is they?
The workers.
Oh, oops.
Alrighty. Right. Okay. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Gopijana Malaba Irivarudaude Gopijana Malaba Irivarudaude Yasuranana Vrajajana Ranjana Yasuranana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tehira Panachare Yamuna Tera Banachati Jai Hurat Ummatva Kunya Bihati Jai Hurat Madhava Kunya Bihari Gopijana Balaba Idivadadari Gopidana Balaba Idivadadari Yasuranana Brajajana Ranjana Yasuranana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Panachare Yamuna Tera Manachati Jai Hurat Umadava Kunya Bihave Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravidikacharya also Teta Satashi Shimad His Divine Grace Abhaya Chananada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anandagoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopakapata Sayam Kunda Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Maturam Ki Jai Jagannath Swami Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Srimati Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Go, Premananda, Hari Hari Bol. All glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Okay. So we are reading today from the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 16th chapter, text 41. So, Om Namo Bhagavate. Can someone keep that door closed? Because it actually makes me sick to smell the smells from the kitchen. Because they like to fry, anyway, but not talk about that class. And frying creates carcinogens, whether you like it or not. So we're reading from 10th canto, 16th chapter, text 41. Kalaya, Kala, Nabaya, Kalavayava, Sakshane, Vishvaya, Tad, Upadrashtre, Tat, Kartre, Vishwa, Hetave, Kalaya Kalanabaya, Kalavayava Sakshane, Vishvayatad Upadrashtre, Vishvayatad Upadrashtre, Tat Kartre Vishvahetave, Kalaya Kalanabaya, Kalavayava Sakshane, Vishvayatad Upadrashtre, Tat Kartre Vishvahetave, Kalaya Kalanabaya, Kalavayava Sakshane, Vishvayatad Upadrashtre, Tat Kartre Vishva Hetave. Okay. Okay. Kalaya unto time. Kalanabaya unto him who is the shelter of time. Kala avayava of the various phases of time. Sakshane to the witness. Vishvaya to the form of the universe. Tad upadrastre to the observer of it. Tat kartre to the creator of it. Vishva of the universe. Hetave to the total cause. So, translation. Obeisances unto you, who are time itself, the shelter of time, and the witness of time in all its phases. You are the universe, and also its separate observer. You are its creator, and also the totality of all its causes. You can repeat. Obeisances unto you, who are time itself, the shelter of time, and the witness of time in all its phases. You are the universe, and also its separate observer. This cooking is deadly. You are its creator, and also the totality of all its causes. So, purport by the servants of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, although appearing in different incarnations, can never be limited by time, since He is time itself, the shelter of time, and the witness of time in all its phases. So, let me go read the verse again. Kala kala na poiho, kala vayava sakshane, vishvaya tadu bhadrashtre, tad kartre, vishva hetave. So, Om Gana Timiranda Shah Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Miditam Yena Tasmai Shigaravena Maha. So we'll begin by reading some of the commentaries of the Acharyas, which pretty much coincide with the purport that was written by the servants of Srila Prabhupada. No, I need air. Air that's not filled with different particles. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments, though the Lord appears in time and space, He is not affected by the qualities of material time and space. We pay respects to you, who are time, Kala Swarupa, the shelter of time, Kala Naboya, the witness of time's divisions, Kala Avayava Sakshi. You are the witness, but not contaminated. We pay respects to you, who are the form of the universe, Vishva, but not touched by it, being not only its witness, but its controller, Upadestre. You are not only its controller, but its cause. What more can be said? We offer respects to you. So actually the commentaries from the other Acharyas are pretty much exactly the same, Jiva Goswami and Sanatana Goswami. But what I want to read is Srila Prabhupada's commentary on a parallel verse, because some of you may have noticed that there's many parallel verses in Queen Kunti's prayers. And so pretty much Queen Kunti is praying in a similar way, and Prabhupada writes a whole purport here. So this is 1.8.28, for those of you who want to look up in your electronic gadgets. And I'll read the Sanskrit. I think I joined the wrong movement. Manye tvam kalamishanam anadi nidanam vibhum samam charantam sarvatra Bhutanam yan mita kalaki. So the translation of this verse is, My Lord, I consider your lordship to be eternal time, the supreme controller without beginning and end, the all-pervasive one. In distributing your mercy, you are equal to everyone. The dissensions between living beings are due to social intercourse. Wow. It's quite an interesting verse. So purport, Kunti Devi knew that Krishna was neither her nephew nor an ordinary family member of her paternal house. She knew perfectly well that Krishna is the primeval Lord who lives in everyone's heart as the supersoul Paramatma. Another name of the Paramatma feature of the Lord is Kala, or eternal time. So that's a name of Paramatma. Eternal time is the witness of all our actions, good and bad, and thus resultant reactions are destined by him. It is no use saying that we do not know why and for what we are suffering. We may forget the misdeed for which we may suffer at this present moment, but we must remember that Paramatma is our constant companion, and therefore he knows everything past, present, and future. And because the Paramatma feature of Lord Krishna destines all actions and reactions, he is the supreme controller also. Without his sanction, not a blade of grass can move. The living beings are given as much freedom as they deserve, and misuse of that freedom is the cause of suffering. The devotees of the Lord do not misuse their freedom, and therefore they are the good sons of the Lord. Others who misuse freedom are put into miseries destined by the eternal Kala. The Kala offers the conditioned souls both happiness and miseries. It is all predestined by eternal time. There's this predestination again. As we have miseries uncalled for, so we may have happiness also without being asked, for they are all predestined by Kala. No one is therefore either an enemy or friend of the Lord. Everyone is suffering and enjoying the result of his own destiny. This destiny is made by the living beings in the course of social intercourse. It means interacting with other living entities. Everyone here wants to lord it over material nature, and thus everyone creates his own destiny under the supervision of the Supreme Lord. He is all-pervading, and therefore he can see everyone's activities. And because the Lord has no beginning or end, he is known also as the eternal time, Kala. So, time, of course, is one of the important topics mentioned in the Gita. You have one of the 5 topics mentioned in the Gita. And Krishna himself in the Gita says, Kalo asmi. When he is asked by Arjuna in the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, in which Arjuna is perceiving the universal form, he's asked by Arjuna, like, who are you? And Krishna says, I am time, and I've come to destroy everyone. And other than you, the Pandavas, everyone will die in this battle of Kurukshetra. Of course, there are a few other people who survive. I mean, Ashwatthama certainly survived, unfortunately, the battle of Kurukshetra. And Kritavarmana, he also survived. And Kripacharya, he also survived. So there were few other people. But generally, everyone died. So it was the time factor that really destroys everything within this world. And there's other indications of that too, Machu Sarva Harashaham, which is actually death. Death is actually connected with the time factor. So Krishna says, I am all devouring death. There's another verse from the Bhagavad Gita. So, and the time factor also gives us the actions and reactions to our sinful or pious activities. And one point made by Srila Prabhupada in this purport is this time factor, which is a representative of Krishna, which is a representative of the Paramatma, is equal, as Krishna is equal to all living entities. In other words, you can't blame time and you can't blame Krishna for your sufferings in this world. As Krishna says elsewhere in the Gita, Samaham sarvabhuteshu name dvesho stina priyaha. He says, I am equal to everyone. No one is especially dear to me, nor is someone an actual enemy. So the time factor being equal and Krishna being equal indicates that the living entities are responsible for their own sufferings and enjoyments in this world. So that's an important point that Srila Prabhupada is making here. So another interesting point made by Srila Prabhupada is dissensions between living entities are due to social intercourse, and Prabhupada actually refers to that again. This destiny is made by the living beings in the course of social intercourse. Now, that's interesting because the V-karmic activities are due to our interactions with other living entities, generally. I mean, there's some exceptions to that, like if you smoke cigarettes. But actually, I guess smoking cigarettes is also an interaction with the tobacco, something like that. But in other words, you see the good karma and bad karma generally comes from interactions with others. For example, the bad karma that comes from killing cows, obviously, is interaction with the living entities such as cows that are killed or other animals that are killed, or illicit sex, intoxication, like that. So all these different karmic reactions, or the majority of these different karmic reactions, are manifested or come through social interaction. Because this word, intercourse, basically means exchange with other living entities. And of course, it says this destiny is made by the living beings in the course of social intercourse. So also, our destiny to become Krishna conscious, or our future Krishna consciousness, can be made possible by our social intercourse with the Supreme Personality of Godhead and His devotees. Now, another point Prabhupada makes here about time, which is quite an interesting point, that of predestination. As we have miseries uncalled for, so we may have the happiness also without being asked for they are all predestined by Kala. So that also brings into question the whole topic of free will versus predestination. I mean, that's one of the topics that theologians talk about, that is there predestination or do we have free will? And Srila Prabhupada is very clear in describing this, not here in the purport but elsewhere, that these are not mutually contradictory concepts, predestination and free will. Predestination in Srila Prabhupada's understanding doesn't mean that you are forced to act in a particular way. Of course, in the material world, we are forced to act. That is true. If we don't pick up Krishna consciousness or take up Krishna consciousness, the Bhagavad Gita teaches us that nahi kaschit shanamapi jatatishtati karma krit karyate yavasa karma sarva prakriti jargana. We are forced to act helplessly according to the impulses born of the modes of material nature. But we do have the free will to choose Krishna at any point. So the question is, as far as predestination is concerned, or related to this particular point of predestination, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I know everything past, present, and future. Also, that point is made here in the purport, that Krishna knows everything past, present, and future. Kala knows everything past, present, and future. So in that regard, are we actually being forced by the time? The question is, are we actually being forced by the time factor to either not surrender to Krishna or to surrender to Krishna? And clearly the answer is that we are not being forced to either surrender or not surrender to Krishna, or turn our face away from Krishna. Clearly the answer is that we have that free will at every moment. As the story goes that Prabhupada would relate, when one was asked, a king was asked one time, or a king asked the question of a sage, why is Maya so strong? And the sage immediately ran up to a pillar in the palace and embraced the pillar and said, let me go, let me go, let me go. So in other words, one has the choice to embrace Maya or not embrace Maya. But what does that mean? As we were hearing from Prabhupada yesterday, the choice is either you turn your face to Krishna or you turn your face away from Krishna. In other words, you cannot have, there is no neutral position. You can say, I'm not embracing Maya and I'm not Krishna conscious either. You cannot have some position in between. Whoops, the roof is still leaking. Just a little, don't worry. I got a few little droplets here. It's all right. So there's no position in between Krishna and Maya. You either have Krishna or you have Maya. Krishna, as Prabhupada quoted the verse yesterday in class, Krishna Surya Samamaya Hoya Andakar. Krishna is the sun. Maya is the absence of the sun. Maya means darkness. So anyway, so our free will is at every moment we can choose Krishna or Maya. We're not forced to act in terms of choosing Krishna or Maya. It's not like the Christians sometimes say, the devil made me do it. Or the devotees say, Maya was strong. I'm in Maya. You know, it's a good excuse. Maya was strong. Or they may even take shelter of astrology and say that this is my Saturn period, Prabhu. So don't expect me to be Krishna conscious during this particular period. I've had that excuse laid on me many, many times. This is my Saturn period. I mean, actually, one of my godbrothers who's expert in astrology, a sannyasi, his name is Prahlad Nandamars, told me this is going to be the worst period in your life. You know, he predicted, something like that. Happened to be the best period in my life. And I said later, why were you wrong? He said, I can see that Saturn was taking away all the impurities in your life. So, anyway, so we have excuses. And Prabhupada was very strong in this regard, and he didn't accept excuses. Not only excuses for being in Maya, but excuses for making mistakes either. I remember this one story with Tamal Krishna Maharaj, that Prabhupada had given Tamal Krishna Maharaj a key. It's an interesting story because the way Prabhupada locked things up he had one key that unlocked something else that had another key in it, that unlocked something else that had a key in it. You understand? And finally you got to his Almira. Almira is like a cabinet. You know, one of these steel cabinets? That's an Almira. And so finally after 3 or 4, I don't know how many keys, it got to it. So Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he had lost the key. He said to Prabhupada, Prabhupada says, where's the key? And he said, basically, he looked everywhere, being really anxious. He said, I lost the key. And Prabhupada immediately, Prabhupada didn't have much tolerance for people making that sort of mistake or losing things. He said, call for the GBC. You probably heard this story before. Call the GBC. So, So Tamal Krishna was wondering, oh my God, the whole GBC meeting about my mistake of losing the key. So then he just thought, well, maybe if I try out different keys, it's an Indian lock, and he tried out different keys. And finally he was able to unlock the Almira. And he said, Prabhupada, no problem, I was able to unlock the key, was a different key, I used a different key. And Prabhupada said, no, anyway. And he said, Prabhupada said, from now on, you keep the key on your Brahman thread. So from that day forward, even in Vrindavan, you'll see the pujaris, they actually have when you see them doing arti, they actually have the key hanging from their Brahman threads, which is quite interesting. So Prabhupada really had, nice water. Always wanted to go swimming today. So Prabhupada actually had very little tolerance for... No, it's all right. You need to, like Prabhupada said, you need to have a cool head. So it's not landing on the head, don't worry. So Prabhupada, with most devotees, at least those devotees who work with him constantly, he had very little tolerance for mistakes. Well, thank you. It's just what I wanted. So Prabhupada had very little tolerance for devotees making mistakes or devotees being Maya. Of course, if a devotee was a Maya, Prabhupada was extremely compassionate. But he wouldn't accept an excuse. Like if someone did something, Prabhupada expected that person to rectify it rather than, and there are some stories where Prabhupada asked, why you do this? And they said, I guess I'm in Maya. Prabhupada, they gave the excuse. So, and ultimately, we're responsible. The time factor is not controlling the devotees. It's a very, very important point. Of course, it controls our bodies. The bodies are getting older. But it doesn't control our activities. And it doesn't control our happiness. If someone is actually a devotee, it doesn't control how much happiness or distress we have. We are actually, if we are chanting, even Nama Bas chanting, that actually frees one from the influence of the time factor, which is connected with karma. So anyway, so these are some of the points being made. So, all right, let me finish with this whole thing. So we're talking about predestination versus free will. So just because the Lord knows how we're going to choose doesn't mean that we've lost our free will. There's not a contradiction. They're not mutually exclusive concepts or contradictory concepts. Krishna knows you're going to choose a certain way, but you've utilized your free will to choose that particular way. He hasn't forced you to choose. It's not time forcing you. It's not Krishna forcing you. It's not the modes of nature forcing you, unless you happen to be in Maya. So we are responsible. Ultimately, we are responsible for our lives, our lack of Krishna consciousness, or whatever Krishna consciousness we have. We're responsible for our control of the senses. We are responsible for our emotional states. There's ultimately great responsibility in Krishna consciousness. Someone says, I can't control my senses, I'm overeating. You're responsible. You can't say, it's not that you can't do it. As long as you have the faculties. I mean, if you had some mental disease or something like that really put you in a different category, that's a different circumstance. But you can, like Prabhupada said, and we mentioned previously in class, Prabhupada said, impossible is a word in a fool's dictionary. You can control your senses. Every one of us can control our senses, as long as we have the faculties, the normal human faculties. You can do it. So, on that happy note, any questions or comments? Yes?
It's presented here as a binary choice.
Yeah.
Krishna or Maya.
Krishna or Maya.
But it doesn't really appear in this material world, or in the world we see around us, so binary. We see devotees doing certain things that are kind of in Maya, and sometimes we see people who are
Yeah.
who are clearly not devotees, but they're doing things that are elevated. Spirit, there's good sentiments. So how do we see that? I mean, how do we see the binary
Uh,
manifest here?
Generally, I take that as this is my own realization. It's a moment by moment thing. That it's not that 24 hours a day. I may not be Krishna conscious 24 hours a day, but sometimes during the day, I am serving Krishna. Sometimes during the day, I have my mind fixed on Krishna. So, it's moment by moment. I mean, not until you're an absolutely pure devotee. Then, sometimes we're absorbed in Krishna consciousness, isn't it? Sometimes there's a really ecstatic kirtan or a nice YouTube channel nowadays, and we just get absorbed, or we're doing arti and we're just absorbed in that. So, you're right. It's not just binary that we're either Krishna conscious or not Krishna conscious, but I take it as a moment by moment thing, and also there can be a degree of Krishna consciousness, even moment to moment, how much Krishna conscious we are and how little Krishna conscious. But the point is that just the fact that we are chanting Hare Krishna and following the four regulated principles frees us from the control of the time factor. Just the, Bhaktivinoda Thakur states about Namabhas, just Namabhas chanting frees one from even parabdha karma. And I've had some arguments with people about this, particularly astrologers. They say, well, parabdha karma, this was actually an argument that traditionally astrologers make. If parabdha karma was finished, you would die. Yeah, you'd be finished. So Prabhupada answers that, because Prabhupada was asked a similar question. He says that Krishna is personally maintaining your body. Krishna is personally taking care of things for his devotees. Actually, there's a statement. Once one says to Krishna, from this day forward, I'm yours, then Krishna personally takes care of that person. So it's not, yes, the body is evidence of our previous karma. That is true. But it's no longer karma. Krishna is maintaining that. Krishna can transform the body. Just like Prabhupada typically gives the example, when you put an iron rod into the fire, the iron rod gets hotter, and eventually becomes fire. So this body actually becomes transformed. Of course, perhaps not to the extent that Dhruva Maharaj's body became transformed, where he was able to just transform his body, step on the flower airplane, go back to Godhead. I don't think that's going to happen with most of us. But, I've definitely experienced through the process of Krishna consciousness how by serving Krishna, the physical body actually gets transformed. Not in the sense it doesn't get old or anything like that, but the physical body actually becomes more immersed in the Vishuddha Sattva, in goodness. It's a fact. You chant Hare Krishna, and Brahmanuchar Namat, Gridanti Ete, Aho Bataswa Pachato Gadiyan, Yaji Vargre Vartataye Namatubhyam, Tapustapus Jehovah Sharsna Arya, Brahmanuchar Nama, Gridanti Ete. So that's an interesting statement that Aho means how wonderful it is, Bataswa Pachato Gadiyan, that even if you happen to be a dog eater, or come from the family of dog eaters, and that's considered extremely low. I don't even mention cow eaters there, but dog eaters. Swapacha togari yadvi valgri vartate namatubram. That if your tongue is vibrating Krishna's name, then it's understood, tepus tepus Jehovah Shashna Arya, that you've performed all preliminary austerities and penances, and you become an Aryan. You become Aryan. Aryan means not something like Hitler considered, but you become a high-class person. And then Brahmanuchar Nama, Granantiyete, you've achieved the status of Brahman. Just like you have in the Ramayan, Visvamitra Muni, who was performing all these different austerities to become a Brahmana. You all remember that? I told the story many times. That, he really took like millions and millions of years, got deterred because of Menaka, Ramba, a bird passing stool on his head that he cursed, fighting with Vashishta Muni. It took him millions of years of austerities to become to the point of being a Brahmana in the self-same body. So by the process of chanting the Lord's holy names, according to that verse, Ahobata Swa Pachato Gariyan Yaji Vagre Vartate Namatubhyam, one can come to the point of transform the body. I mean, you still, of course, the body still has certain abilities. It's not that simply by chanting Hare Krishna that I'm going to memorize all the Vedic literatures. Hasn't happened yet. But at least one has Brahminical qualities. What are the Brahminical qualities? Krishna mentions them in the Gita. Samadamak dapakshotam shantir arjavamevacha. Being equipoised, self-controlled, honest, religious, studying Vedic literatures, practicing what's in the Vedic literatures, being tolerant. And these things happen. I mean, every one of us can achieve these qualities. It doesn't matter your past. I mean, just like the story I told the other day about Bhakta Peter. Remember that story? Who became Kusakrata? That, here was someone who was basically, the devotees thought, throw him out. He's hopeless. He's useless. He just sit there, mumbling or something like that in the hallway. And Prabhupada said, no. But he continued practicing Krishna consciousness and became such a great devotee. He was capable of, I actually worked with him. I mean, I also had experienced how in the beginning he had some problems like that. In Houston, Texas, in the beginning days of the movement, this is after I was in Gainesville and other things. Anyway, I went to Houston, Texas, and of course the temple president was Hridayananda Maharaj, anyway, at that time. Anyway, and so Kusakrata Prabhu and I would go on Sankirtan together. And it was lucky if he did one book. At that time we were allowed to go into the malls. There was one mall in Houston called the Galleria Mall. Do you remember that? Really? From the old Radha Damodar days. But we were allowed. We were going in the malls with our dhotis on. This is before plainclothes, Sankirtan, wigs, and everything like that. And he would do, if he was lucky, he would do one book a day. But he would be out there determined. It's interesting. He was so determined. He stayed out there the whole day trying to distribute Srila Prabhupada's books. And he would be chanting. This is really important. Good, this memory is coming back to me. As he was distributing Prabhupada's books, he would always be chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. I mean, of course, that freaked a lot of people out who he approached at the Galleria Mall. But he was always chanting the Lord's holy names. And then after a while, he became this great, not author, but translator of Vedic literatures in Brahman, a real Brahman. And the devotees in Los Angeles, they just like, wow, he's just one of the stars here. He became much more of a star than I was when I was in Los Angeles. So that's proof. Simply by chanting, if we simply take up this process of chanting the Lord's holy names, whatever it is, the time factor, the karma, whatever it is, we become transformed. Our body becomes transformed. Our mind becomes transformed. Our abilities become enhanced. Our senses become purified. Cheto Darpana Marjanam. Literally. Like that. When we see things, we don't think anymore how to enjoy them. That's a problem. We think how they can be used for Krishna's enjoyment. Dhanaman, Janaman, Sundarim. Like Prabhupada said, we want this to serve Krishna anyway. So, on that happy note, we are going to greet the deities. Really?
Very spaced out character.
Really? And then he just became...
Because he was dedicated to a cure.
Okay, I will be there in 1 second. after I put them online. So